everyone, welcome back to Trees and Turtles. My name's Imogen. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about lessons that I learned from graduating from Durham University, about academia, about university, about life in general. Alright, so if you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that, give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and let's get started. So if you are new here, congratulations, welcome, and you may or may not know that I graduated from Durham with my bachelor's degree in 2024. And these are some things I learned along the way, generally sort of academia focused. So if you're either thinking about going to university, if you're in university, if you've already graduated and you're looking at like maybe a second degree, then any of this could be relevant for you. And if you are just here for the vibes, that's also great. Let's dive in. The first thing that I learned is that how you feel about your academic progress may not reflect reality, okay? I had massive imposter syndrome. Now, I've talked about this in other videos, and it just kind of like, it was this big like monster hanging over my entire academic life. It really did affect me a lot, okay? And I just constantly felt like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't deserve to have the place at Durham that I'd been offered, that I'd been given, and I just didn't feel like I was going to be a success, that I was going to live up to my potential. I just thought I was going to like completely fail the whole thing, okay? I had massive imposter syndrome, but I graduated with a 2-1, okay? I got a strong first class mark on one of my final year modules as well, on a project that I genuinely wasn't sure about, and I genuinely didn't think I deserved my degree. Like, I spent 3 years thinking I don't deserve my degree, like I don't deserve to do well, you know, I'm not good enough for this. And then it was only in the final week, when I opened my final results, just the week before graduation, that I finally felt, okay, I worked hard, I deserve this. So how you feel about your academic progress may not reflect reality. I saw myself essentially as like a complete failure, and I just had the worst imposter syndrome. I'm sure, okay, it's not a competition. I'm sure there's someone out there with worse imposter syndrome than me, but it genuinely like took over my life, and it was a horrible experience to have so much imposter syndrome. And I think it's actually very common to have imposter syndrome. So how you feel about yourself and your intellect and your academic strengths may not reflect reality. Like, I was genuinely shocked when I opened my final results, and shocked in a good way as well, because I didn't think I deserved that. And then my work paid off, and it turned out I did. So don't put yourself down as much as you think. As much as you may think that you are like an imposter, chances are that you're not. You're working really hard, okay? So give yourself some credit. Another thing that I learned, and this may be just a function of Durham being tough on people sometimes, is that you can get a lot of negative feedback and still do well. I remember in third year, I got a very strong 2-1 grade on a third year report. It was like very close to a first. And I'd worked really hard on it, so I was decently happy with that. And almost all of the written feedback consisted of criticisms. So it was just like, it was basically the marker was like going off on all the flaws in my report, and they'd still given me a really strong grade. And I was just laughing at this, because I was like, you are criticizing me so much, but you've marked me really well. So I thought that was really funny. And that actually happened like not just one time, but like that happened several times. So I would get like a mark that I was happy with, or a mark that was like decently strong, and then the written feedback would just be full of things that I did wrong. And it was really a kind of a learning point for me. Just because the written feedback is pointing out areas for improvement doesn't mean you didn't do well. Like, to an extent, I learned that it was the job of my lecturers to kind of like point out my mistakes, even if I produced objectively strong work. Like, there's always areas that you can improve on. So it was humbling, and a little bit confusing, because I was like, you know, make up your mind. Is this a good report or is this a bad report? But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm grateful you gave me a good grade, but also, could you say one thing nice about me? Anyway, that's not like a complaint or anything, but I think it was interesting how you can get a lot of negative feedback in like verbal terms or like written terms, and the actual grade is still pretty good. Another thing that I learned is that if you don't vibe with a particular like lecturer's teaching style, that doesn't mean you're stupid, okay? There was one module where I genuinely, there was more than one module where I felt a bit stupid, but there was one module in particular, and I'm not going to name names, but in this module, I genuinely tried my hardest. I worked my ass off. Like, I could not have worked any harder than I did, I swear. I asked as many questions, and I did as much reading and research as I could. Like, I was in every single like open like open office hours type session. Like I was there with my questions, with my notebook, okay, and I was early and I still got a mediocre grade. I was really genuinely disappointed with that, because I think when you don't put effort in and you get a mediocre grade, you can't be disappointed. But when you've worked your ass off so hard and then you get like a mediocre grade, that just feels like you gave it everything and your everything wasn't good enough, and that just pissed me off. Overall, I did fine, but just on that one module, I think it was just a clash in learning styles. Like, I think that my learning style and the lecturer's teaching style just didn't match up, and that wasn't anybody's fault. I think we both tried our hardest, but it doesn't mean that you're stupid, because overall in that year I did fine, in my whole degree I did fine, and in some modules I absolutely excelled. Okay, so sometimes it's normal to find a module difficult or to get a lower grade in a module. It doesn't mean you're stupid, it just means that maybe your learning styles don't match up too well. All right. So another thing that goes on at Durham, and I'm told at some other universities, although I don't have any direct experience of it, is that exams are online and open book, and you are given 24 hours to complete them. Now, this might sound like a dream come true, and I think they are moving to more like time limited exams and in person. I'm not sure. I think it was a function of the pandemic. I think they're keeping some of them for accessibility reasons. I'm actually not sure. I'm not up to date on the latest, because like I said, I've graduated and moved away from Durham. But there are actually pros and cons to this style of like open book 24-hour online exam. So the pros, you can focus on really like knowledge and not memorization, and like the application of your knowledge, and they're much more accessible. So the cons, the stress is like spread out over a whole day or until it's done, unlike a 2-hour exam. Now, obviously they recommend that you only spend 2 hours on it, but nobody, and I mean nobody, spent 2 hours on it. I think everyone I talked to had spent at least 8 hours on it, and I spent between 8 and 12 hours on all of my exams. So it's very much like a normal thing to spend a good chunk of the time. And I even, one of my friends once spent 23 hours on a 24-hour exam. And so you can see how, like, obviously it's not like recommended, but everyone tries to use the most of the time until they like get really tired. So the stress is like spread out over a longer time period. But also in some ways you can have breaks, you can have naps if you are able to sleep with all that stress. So there are pros and cons. It sounds great on the surface, but also there are like downsides. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have like a preference for which type of exams are better, because I've done both. Like for my A-levels, they were all like in exam hall, closed book, like 2 hours, super timed, supervised, and all of that. So it was just like, you've got to know everything, like it's got to be in your brain. Whereas when I got to university, it was like, okay, it's open book, but it's like more challenging because there's more like application needed. You've got longer, but nevertheless, your stress is going to be spread out. So it's, I guess, pros and cons. All right, something else that I learned, and this is not intended as a diss at anyone, but other people are not actually doing as well as you think. Plenty of people. Now, obviously I didn't share these speculations, but I had my like personal bets on the people that I was expecting to like graduate with a first, graduate with a 2-1, graduate with a 2-2. You guess these things, okay? And plenty of people that I expected to graduate with a first actually graduated with a 2-1. Now, they don't like publish pass lists or anything, so the only way that you can find out someone else's grade is if they tell you. But there was generally a lot of conversation around who got what grade, and I was very open about the grade I got, and a lot of other people were too. So, you know, this kind of information filters through. And I was actually sort of really surprised that a lot of people that I had my eye on, I was like, these people are 100% going to get a first. And they came out with a 2-1, and I was like, that no way. Like, because I thought of them as intellectually much more capable than I was, and we got the same grade. And at the end of the day, I was just like, wow, that was really unexpected, okay? Even though I thought they were so much smarter than me all along, we ended up with the same final grade. So other people are not actually doing as well as you think, okay? And you might think that everyone else is like super smart, and to an extent, yes, they are. But so are you, because you guys are at the same university and you are on the same course. And even though you think you might feel stupid and you think you might not get it, other people have struggles that you might find really easy, okay? So just because you're struggling with something and someone else is sailing through it doesn't mean that you are stupider than them, and it doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to get a lower grade, because you might be sailing through your assignments in another module where they're struggling, or you guys might be in different modules and they're like really struggling to keep their grade up on that one, and for you it's like your best module, okay? So you don't really know what's going on with someone, even if they seem super put together. And finally, this is really important, okay? There are no shortcuts. Getting a degree is hard work and there's no way around it, but that's what makes it so valuable, okay? The reason we go to university is to be challenged and to grow our intellectual capabilities and just to be more ourselves and to be more capable and to develop our skills. And if there was no challenge, there would be no point. Okay, and that's why employers value having a degree, or, you know, in the sort of like more practical world, having a professional certification, having practical training, because it's difficult, okay? And it shows that you're able to go through these challenges and, you know, work to deadlines and come out of them on the other side stronger and more knowledgeable and more skilled and generally just a more developed and well-rounded person, okay? But there are no shortcuts. And if you try and take shortcuts, then you're just cheating yourself out of your own personal development. You're cheating yourself out of your learning, okay? So don't half-ass it. Put in as much effort as you can, because I promise it's worth it. And I promise that, you know, it feels painful at the time, but it pays off. Okay, it really does. And I know that's easy for me to say because I come out of it on the other side, I've graduated, and I might just be sitting here going like, oh guys, it's fine, you know, work hard, everything's fine. And you're like sitting in second year crying because you're like, this is so difficult and I'm never gonna finish. I was there in second year. I promise it gets better. I promise. Like, I've been through it. I know exactly what it's like, okay? But there are no shortcuts. You have to do the work. All right, these are all the lessons, well, not all the lessons. If I was here to make all the lessons, I'd probably make an entire feature film about it. Some of the most important lessons that I learned are on graduating from Durham. If you're not already subscribed, be sure to do that. Give this video a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will see you very soon. I hope your journey in academia is extremely fulfilling and a point of personal fulfillment and growth. Bye.